Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Neo the One, Lost Cat FA, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Tina Baker, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now raise the mic on whoever is in Discord. Looks like it's just Neil, and we can hopefully have a conversation while I'm setting up for today's live show.
Another one bites the dust.
That's what they took out of that whole thing. Unreal. So, and again, they mentioned Nathan, but boy, you guys are living rent-free in their heads, that's for sure.
So are
I'm
you,
finding
Neil?
out.
So am I.
Yeah.
All of us are.
Yeah, so is the case.
I got trolls trolling me all over the place. It's like, don't you guys have a life? I don't troll anybody.
They think you're trolling them.
By asking a question.
Don't try and rationalise this.
I didn't know asking a question was trolling.
Don't try and rationalise it. They think you're a troll because you stand in violation of their fundamentalist religious zealotry that the Earth is a sphere in a vacuum spinning around.
Now that you put it in that context.
And the other one was when QE was talking about the nuclear exchange and how the bodies would have to be buried east. You got M. Scott Veach on there saying, oh, it's obvious. Anytime there's dead bodies, it's going to be toxic. I mean, you got to listen to it. It's a joke.
Doesn't make any sense to me, but I'll take your word for it.
I think what Neil is talking about is it takes a long time to bury the dead. So is it 7 years? Is that right? 7 months or something?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So maybe it's predicting some kind of contamination as the cause of death, and they have to be careful about the bury. It's not
what are you talking about?
clearest.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Hey, Flatsoid.
What
death?
Okay,
what
the
body?
thing
What are
that
you talking
QE
about?
just played.
Hey, Flatwood. Go ahead, Neil. Bring us up to date.
It was the most recent. I don't know if I got it through you or Ballbusters. The one where he went through the Bible prophecies, where he spoke about the what do you call it, nuclear exchange.
Okay, this is his Saturday clip that QE released, right, from about 2 years ago, where he was discussing prophecies, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, I didn't watch the trimmed out clip, but obviously I was there, right? But I can't remember it.
Yeah, I'm expecting you to just remember everything I just heard. I understand.
Wait a minute, you can't remember what happened 2 years ago, Nathan? Come on.
I was listening
got
to the
Daily Show.
I remember.
I've got Daily Show.
Yeah.
I'm only having fun with you.
Oh yeah, Nathan, they made fun of you about not really made fun of you. They were surprised you did not know what QE meant when he said the fall. They were going into, well, I thought he was from a Christian background then.
Didn't
Remember that
what?
bit?
What did I don't remember. Just you have to remind me. Didn't understand what?
When QE said the fall, he meant the fall of man, and you were thinking he meant autumn.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, yeah, you should listen to it. It's a joke. He let it play for a while, though. I was surprised.
Oh, that's got to be the worst mistake any human being could make, right? Oh, my goodness. Like you said, Nathan, we're taking away their fairy tale and they're upset about everything.
Yeah, Paula had a nice phrase for this. Majoring on the minors. Focusing on the little details, the accidental mispronunciations and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Yes, and then there was the bondage to decay quote that you were asking Kiwi, where did it come from? I think he said it came from Christology. So they looked up what Christology meant, and it didn't add up. I mean, it's like insane what they're picking apart. It is really like you guys are in their brains.
Yeah, as I say, that's becoming more and more apparent as days go by. I just chuckle.
Well, what seems to be happening, just at least on the surface, is they can't rebut any of the logical arguments we present, so they have to move away from that through ad homs or this kind of stuff. It's just silly games.
We're seeing the tail end of them utilising arguments that have been debunked, just carte blanche using them because they've always been used before, and then having some random flat earther say, no, you don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, just for example. Or, no, you can't have gas pressure without a container. And they're suddenly very angry, and they start blaming it on me and QE.
Actually, I put my son Jacob on with QE last night on the arena because he was still asking questions about the why the oxygen doesn't go past Mount Everest like it is down here.
It does.
I mean, they were gentle with him, but he's asserting that the reason why there's more oxygen down here has to be because of gravity.
Okay. The oxygen's made down here. So the fact that it's up at Everest, given that it's made at ground level, means it's made its way up, right?
Yeah, but he's saying, why does it go all the way up to the top of the container?
Well, it certainly isn't down, go boom, boom with gravity, downward vector now, is it? If it's making its way up and there is oxygen above Everest. It's just less of it because there's less producing it.
Yep.
See, they're under the assumption that a container is going to have equilibrium in the sense of the same pressure.
That's what it is.
That's where they're at, but that's not reality.
Well, they were taught in about 6th or 7th grade about cycles, right?
Yep.
Well, it goes back to the initial time when I first heard the argument, and this was when Sleeping Warrior says you're begging the question with them when you say, and I'm about to say what QE was saying at the time. It's still true, and we're saying it now. You could give them gravity, and it still doesn't keep, because it goes up. It doesn't have a downward vector only. It goes in any vector as long as it's bouncing off something. So where's that force where it's supposed to be the strongest at the level or the top of the earth, ground level? Yeah, that's supposed to be the strongest.
There's a big void between the heliocentric rhetoric in its current state, with Einsteinian, not actual forces of gravity, versus a problem for the fundamentalist religious zealots who have taken this philosophical viewpoint and turned it into their world to defend entropy and require something to defend it with, and that's gravity, even though in the current heliocentric priesthood it's not a force. Well, that's a big void between the actual rhetoric and the trench level rhetoric, because they're arguing, as you rightly point out, for something that doesn't actually resolve the problem. Even if, and we used to say it, as you point out, until Sleeping Warrior got annoyed with us, he doesn't anymore because he's further along, whichever argument he wasn't further along with. But we would say, have your gravity, have it at 200%, Newtonian and Einsteinian. It's still not going to overcome entropy. Gas is still expanding in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has. That's entropy. And gravity, regardless of which one you apply in this instance, isn't overcoming it. So the trench level argument that they've got a force holding gas here, it's nonsense. It's just trench level nonsense.
Don't worry, I had a Glober phoning with me today saying entropy takes gravity into account. And when I asked for the equations, he couldn't give it to me.
Entropy takes gravity into account. Okay.
It takes it to the woodshed.
Exactly.
It doesn't apply when you've got things expanding in all directions. They don't have a downward vector of 9.8 meters per second. That isn't applicable if something's going up and going down at the same time, as gas does. So it's not applicable.
Yeah, but the
Huey
concept
gave
can't
it
do
to my
anything
son.
anyway.
He gave him gravity in full effect, and he told him it still would not stop entropy. My son was like, "Why?" So Huey said, "Because entropy rules."
I had this might add a little bit. I had a little 2.5 gallon gas container mixed with regular gas and oil for the machinery that you need the mixture for, like a chainsaw and so forth. And I had left it in the place where I thought it was all shade, but I saw it yesterday and it had caved in on itself. So I said, man, that plastic's going to tear somewhere because it's just like sucked in, right? All the sides. So I took it out, put it in the back of my truck for about less than 10 minutes in the sun. It expanded to its original size again. There's a whole lot going on there, boys.
Yeah,
Heat,
I know what you're
cold.
talking about.
Heat and cold, and where the gas is produced.
Well, when we're doing
Oh,
I'm doing air conditioning with my brothers, sometimes he's got to add what do you call it, Freon refrigerant to the system. And a lot of times he's got a tank that's really low, but what he does is he tries to warm it up, the bottom of it, to get everything flowing, so it moves into the system. So I found that pretty cool.
Well, I think Nathan's talked about a bottle garden before. We've all had one of those, right?
Bottle garden.
Bottle garden. Sealed. Not, mine was circular, and it has it's completely clogged up, but it creates its own little ecosystem within the bottle.
Sure does.
A dynamic system. A closed dynamic system.
And what does it mean when they say the static system? What is that? Explain that to me.
You'd have to ask them. I don't know. Nothing's static. Can't reach absolute zero.
Because Kiwi was explaining something to my son about it being what you said, a closed dynamic system as opposed to open static.
Oh, right. They assume that you'll have equilibrium. So as soon as you close a container, not that this straw man argument in any way addresses how you can have the gas pressure in the first instance, but they just straw man us and say, well, it would all be equal if we were in a container. It's like, no, it wouldn't. And I don't no need to exaggerate it further than 10th Man's already done with a bottle garden. Does it reach equilibrium? No, it doesn't. It's dynamic. But they assert that if we're in a container, it's like, no, we must be in a container or we wouldn't have any gas pressure. It's just a straw man.
Yeah, they got problems. Like, where did you get the gas pressure to begin with? And they always love the word gradient.
Yeah, but you see, you don't understand. Pressurized and pressure doesn't mean the same thing.
That's a really good one. I must admit, that got me laughing.
Well, the new rule is we don't talk about this at dinner time no more because it turns into a heated battle between me and my eldest son. So I don't talk about. He throws little digs in there, and I've just been not even paying attention to him for the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 weeks. So he told me last night, if I could prove them wrong, would you give me $30? I said, okay, I'll put you on 24/7. QE's there, talk to him. So, but that was it. But he keeps. I'm in his head. It's in his head, and he's thinking about it constantly.
You know what's into that's kind of fun too. That for $30, I would have said 300 or 3,000 myself, but
My son's cheap.
It's no, but it's interesting. The arguments that do get answered and totally demolished by flat earthers, meaning, the ballers' arguments that fall apart. There's no concession like, okay, I'm 5 down already, and I'm going to bet $30. I'm not saying your son said this, but as I listened to his show, we got repeat ballers coming on. They've lost every argument, and they still come on as if it's a brand new match and they've never lost.
Yeah, I agree. But my son, I told him, I said, Jake, I would have given you $30 anyway.
So where's the humility that I'm down 10 arguments and I haven't won one yet, and here I come with the 11th, as if I've got something to say, when those 10 should have shown me that my foundation, if I'm a baller, is crumbling.
It's called zealotry. They're zealots. Yeah. They automatically assume they're right. When they lose, they assume they've won. It's pathetic.
Yep.
I know, it's comedic at times.
Rumpus probably claimed victory for the other day.
Rumpus' only victory is that he keeps talking. In his own mind, that's winning. If you just talk when someone else is talking, you can't get into a position where you think you lost something because you never listened long enough to know if you lost.
I re-listen to the show because I can't hear a lot when he's on, because I'm on Discord, and when he's going, I don't hear anything. So I get it all when I re-listen to the show, the Uncut and after show. And he was on about the 2 words meaning the same thing. Yeah, halt and stop mean the same thing. What are you trying to say with that? Still don't understand what he was trying to say.
Well, he was trying to get out of a violation of law of non-contradiction. That's what he was trying to do, but you can't.
Yeah, he doesn't understand 2 different things can't have the same definition.
Right. You can't. Words mean things, and there are
really.
Well, and that's why there's a whole science about words. I don't mean like the science that we talk about, but taxonomy, I think it's called. And to have logic, and to have logic, the words have to mean things, or you have no conversation. Because if a word is not exact, then if I say ball and you think I'm going to a dance, we got problems.
Yeah,
but you see, they don't like definitions because every definition already demolishes their whole argument.
Exactly, it destroys them.
Here, I'm going to read you something from a book called Consequences of Ideas by R.C. Sproul. It's really good. Aristotle did not invent logic any more than Columbus invented America. What Aristotle did was define logic and set forth its fundamentals. In one sense, he did not view logic as a separate science with its own field of inquiry, such as botany, physics, chemistry, and many other disciplines. Rather, he saw logic as the organon, or instrument of all science. As an organon, logic is the supreme tool necessary for all other sciences. It is a necessary condition for science even to be possible. This is because logic is essential to intelligible discourse. That which is illogical is unintelligible, and is not only not understood, but it's also incapable of being understood. That which is illogical represents chaos, not cosmos. And absolute chaos cannot be known in an orderly way, making knowledge, or scientia, a manifest impossibility.
Sounds good.
Beautiful. It's a great book.
Yeah, it's just not true.
Go on.
His declaration is that you can't prove things. That's in essence what he's saying. Scientia, meaning science.
No, he's not saying that.
Well, he's
saying saying that logic and words have to mean things to prove things, or else you're in chaos.
Well, that much might be true, but what I took from what he was saying was that you would require logic to have science, and that's not true. You have to imply things through logic. That's also not true. Now, this is only because I inquired. QE took the trouble of explaining this to me. So, logic is the method that they used to arrive at science as a method. So the scientific method has its roots in logic. However, so philosophers developed the method, right?
Right.
However, the method itself is empirical by its nature. So it requires no logical inference or logical application. It's purely deductive. So it's ruling out one possibility to confirm another with the formulation of hypothesis. Therefore, not logical based, empirically based. So although it has its heart with the philosophers, it doesn't mean that the method itself that has been developed by the philosophers is logical. It's not. It's empirical if applied properly.
Yeah, I think if I finish the next paragraph, it's gonna. I didn't want to read the whole thing, but let me just go on. Logic itself has no material content, and in this regard may be seen as a formal science, much like mathematics, which in some respects is a form of symbolic logic. Logic measures or analyzes the relationships of statements or propositions. It can show that the conclusion of a syllogism is valid or invalid. It does not determine the truth of a conclusion or an argument. Arguments are not true or false, but valid or invalid. Statements may be either true or false, but the logical relationship of one statement to another is either valid or invalid. And then he goes on to talk about the law of non-contradiction.
No, that's perfect. That's entirely redeemed him. So I shouldn't have stepped in. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So in terms of whether or not your argument is valid or invalid, which is where we apply logical consistency or declare logical fallacy where it applies, that will not give you a truth in terms of proving cause, for example, because we're talking science. So no, it's not going to establish a cause. It will just give you a logical consistency or a declaration of a breakdown in logic, which you can draw conclusions from, you can reach consensus with, and your outcomes can be deemed quote-unquote logical, but they're not empirical. And that's essentially what he's saying. So I couldn't agree more. He totally redeemed himself. Shouldn't have stepped in before you finished off the last paragraph. Oh, well still good.
No, actually, I didn't want to read the whole thing because I didn't want to hog the show. But at the same time, when you stepped in, that was good, because then I heard what you were concerned about, and then I said, "Oh, I better read this last paragraph."
He's essentially saying that the logic that you apply is based in linguistics, and he compares it to mathematics for the same reason. Now, although he doesn't say abstract specifically, that's what he means. You're talking about descriptions, language, maths is the same, logic is the same. You're using that method to arrive at conclusions, not empirically validating things through experimentation, but deriving logic through linguistics, conversation, discussion.
Yeah. Can I read the one on non-contradiction?
Sure.
Aristotle wrote about the fundamental laws of logic, including the law of non-contradiction. The chief principle of logic is the law of non-contradiction. Something cannot be what it is and not be what it is at the same time and in the same sense or relationship. A cannot be A and negative A, non-A, at the same time and in the same relationship. We may be able to predicate, affirm, or deny many things about the same subject, but we cannot predicate of a subject its negative. For example, we can say that a man is tall, short, rich, poor, old, young, a brother, a son, or a father, but we cannot say that the man is not a man. Likewise, we can say that he is a father and a son at the same time, but we can't say this of him in the same relationship. Contrary to the popular ditty, I am my own grandpa, I cannot be my own biological grandfather.
Right, it's a married bachelor. You can't be a married bachelor. Likewise, you can't be a force and a non-force simultaneously. It violates the law of non-contradiction. So Georges Moose's statement, which is as follows: gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. He's violating the law of non-contradiction in that statement. You cannot be both A and not A at the same time. You can't be a force and not a force at the same time. It violates the law of non-contradiction. It's illogical.
Wait a second.
Great-
10 or
great
30
summary.
seconds later, he said something else. I don't know which one, 10 or 30 seconds.
Well, while
According
you're
to
searching for
Oakley.
that was a great summary on the subjects we talk about daily. And they violate the law of non-contradiction all the time.
According to Rumpus, he said it was a force 10 seconds later or 30 seconds later. One or the other. Gotta ask him.
Yeah, he's had quotes on screen where it specifically describes gravity in terms of you considering it as a force, but then in the next sentence says it's not a force. He'll read it out with it on screen to an audience and literally cherry pick the bit that makes it seem like it's a force, ignoring the following statement in the same exact statement that says it's not a force. Because they're liars. They'll literally cherry pick the bit that they want to hear. Oh, I can think of it as a force. Well, then it's a force. Well, what, you're just going to ignore the preceding statement that made it absolutely, in no uncertain terms, clear that it is not a force, end quote. You're going to ignore that because you can think of it as a force. Yeah, you can think of it as roast chicken if I give you permission to. Are you going to then go around telling everybody how gravity's a roast chicken because I've given you permission to think of it as it? No. But the double-speaking fundy like George Moose will tell you explicitly it's not a force because it's not. It's a mathematical reification of Einstein's bending space-time, and then tell you that you can think of it as a force, violating the law of non-contradiction.
Or treat it as a force.
They treat
Same
it as a
thing.
force. They're being told it's not a force.
Well, this is why words mean things. This is why it's important.
Yeah, this is semantics. Socratic method. Agreeing on what a word actually means so you can move forward in a discussion.
Well, that's how I ended it with my son Jacob. I said, listen, the bending of space-time cannot cause anything.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Flatzoid and Chocolate Sane, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Woohoo, woohoo, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Any signs of a physical, geometric, sphere edge horizon? Physical. Formerly known as Earth curve.
Not from Long Beach Harbor.
I don't even think the
Give me
Globers
one.
can find it.
Not on Earth.
You're taking every position on Earth. I can't be saying cities and places anymore, Chocolate.
That's the problem, right? You're supposed to live on a ball. Should have some curves. But
Is
we're
that the
told
same
now
place where the boat
that
used to
only
go
exists
over?
in the math.
Hey, Owen.
That's the problem.
Hello.
Good morning, Arvin.
Oh, hi, Aaron. Didn't that video I posted with the ship disprove the curve?
That was a good video. Nathan, you ought to see that one. It's short.
He's
Who's it by?
starting the show.
Who's it by?
He's on.
We're on the show.
Who's it by, Flatsoid?
Flatsoid.
It's by Keith, someone on Twitter.
Heath Carmody? I don't know.
That one.
I'll have to check it out. Good stuff. Hey, Chemo. I was watching your show this morning with Gem Panda getting very angry because he's got into such a habit of declaring that we have a physical sphere edge for a horizon. And a random flat earther just took him to task on it. It was very, very amusing.
Check.
Yeah.
1, 2, 1.
I haven't heard him that triggered in a long time.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? Because he hasn't got a physical sphere edge, right, Chemo?
Absolutely. Am I coming through all right, yeah?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, what's
Yeah,
up, Timo?
absolutely. This is just, hey guys, this is just the one thing they just can't get around. They can't get around this this apparent. And it's quite a beautiful thing because every time they say the word apparent and you say, well, welcome to flat earth, it's kind of like, well, they get it because it's not physical. So you kind of demand them, well, what's the obstruction? What's the obstruction? And they say, well, they can't answer it now. So we've got them in such a position where they can't say what they want to say. Like the same thing with Brummy, conspiracy cats. So I was in the chat saying to Brummy, get him to say gravity, and Cats could see this. Brummy couldn't see the text, but Cats was seeing this, but he wasn't saying it. He wouldn't say gravity. He was, avoiding it. So we've got them so good. It's just a case now of just pressing, pushing, just being insistent, and just continuing pressing. That's all we can do. Yeah.
Right. So, Globies, let's point something out to you. This is what you see on TV. It's the edge of your presupposed sphere Earth. This is what you're told Earth is. A ball in a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. That's what you're told it is. You're also told that this edge of said ball that you presuppose because of the pictures you see on TV is actually your horizon. Now, if it is an edge of a sphere in a vacuum, then it's physical. It's got physical parameters. And you claim it physically blocks boats and buildings in the distance now, don't you? With its physical nature. And it isn't. Any evidence of the R value?
No.
Black Swan.
That's right. Black Swan. We debunked the R value that you base the presupposition and assumption that we've got a physical sphere edge for a horizon.
Well,
That's based on R. And we've debunked it.
well Jesse Kolorski thinks you can measure the radius without angles.
Now you're going to need a tangent.
Yeah.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
First need a sphere for that.
Come on. anybody?
Coriolis effect that we don't see.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Commenters who tell me that 15 degrees an hour proves we're spinning. Well, let's see it. Let's see this apparent deviation from an Earth that's spinning as I observe things in the ground deviating at 15 degrees an hour. Oh, we don't. That's right, we don't. Now, I'm not interested in the assumptions that you then lead on with, that Earth's spinning and atmosphere's spinning with it. It's nonsense. Violates natural law. Atmosphere isn't bonded to Earth like Velcro. And that would just be an explanation of why we don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath stuff, which is what you're supposed to have to prove we're spinning. And there is no 15 degrees an hour deviation. I don't watch planes in the sky not attached to a spinning reference frame I'm observing them from, deviating at 15 degrees an hour, because that would shorten their flight times.
Can I interject? Because Zanuck said something about the plane has momentum of conservation of. So when the plane leaves the spinning Earth, it doesn't move under the Earth because it's conserved its momentum.
That's fascinating. So as just described by me, and now illustrated by example by you, Chemo, he assumes Earth spinning when the plane leaves an Earth that spins, so he's already begging the question and assuming his outcome that Earth is spinning in his example. He's saying it won't deviate at 15 degrees an hour because, correct?
Yeah, well...
Well, they're supposed to have a Coriolis deviation at 15 degrees an hour. That's what they claim proves Earth is spinning. 15 degrees an hour deviation from the ground as you observe things seem to drift at 15 degrees an hour because it's claimed you're spinning underneath them. So his claim that something that's moving through an inertial reference frame with a claimed, assumed spinning Earth that's travelling with it, well, that's not 15 degrees an hour deviation, is it? They told us we had 15 degrees an hour, Chemo. So what? We don't, according to Zanuck. Well, welcome him to non-rotating Earth, because other than him assuming that Earth's spinning with the atmosphere, begging the question fallacy, he hasn't got 15 degrees an hour, and that's the very thing that's supposed to prove we're spinning, isn't it?
Do you know what I think it is? I think they want us to understand how it would work if we were on a board. So I think we argue like
Chemo,
it's not
it's
reality,
the
but they're
okie
saying,
doke,
well,
man.
Hey?
Chemo, listen to Chocolate here.
It's the okie doke, man. As soon as he starts talking to you about something conserving momentum, he is no longer talking about the Coriolis effect, because that's
Exactly.
only an observation done from the non-inertial rotating reference frame. If he's talking about conserving momentum, he's talking about the projectile. Well, that's got nothing to do with the Coriolis, because you're just looking at it, appearing to deviate because the reference frame that you're on is rotating. That's it. It doesn't matter if the projectile is conserving momentum, standing still, doesn't matter. If you're moving on a rotating reference frame, you're going to see an apparent deviation.
Yeah.
So it's the oldest trick in the book with this argument. That's why it's so done.
I could kiss your chocolate. That was beautifully put. Precisely. Only ever from the non-inertial claim to be spinning reference frame, and that's supposed to prove that Earth is that spinning reference frame. And why does it prove it, according to them? Well, because we see 15 degrees an hour deviation of anything not attached to it. So it deviates at 15 degrees an hour, according to their claim. And what do we get in the trenches? People like Zanuck telling us how it doesn't deviate at 15 degrees an hour because the bullet, or the plane, is conserving momentum. Well, that's nothing to do with Coriolis. Coriolis is only you observing something from a claimed spinning reference frame, in this example with Earth. And you observing something seem to drift at 15 degrees an hour is what they need to prove, and nothing does it. If a plane drifted at 15 degrees an hour from my point on the ground because I'm spinning underneath it, then I'm spinning underneath it. And it would shorten its flight time when travelling west. For example, a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA would take an hour and a half instead of 4.5 hours, because I'm looking at the plane from the ground, seeing it seem to drift, because the Earth's rotating underneath it, according to the claim that is supposed to be proving Earth spins. And when we point out that we don't have flight time shortened, Earth's not turning underneath anything, they explain why it's not drifting at 15 degrees an hour. But simultaneously beg the question and tell you, well, it's because Earth's spinning and atmosphere's spinning with it. So they just assume the outcome and ignore the claim proof that we have 15 degrees an hour deviation and justify why we don't have it. Justify why we don't have the proof of 15 degrees an hour. Every time they say conservation of momentum, they're essentially saying we don't have 15 degrees an hour drift.
Yeah, he still claims that you don't understand.
Okay, so I mean, don't get crazy, don't get mad, but I'm just asking, if we were on a board, is what Zanuck saying, would it make sense? Would these things happen if we were on a board? So
you
if
can
we were,
find out if you conserve momentum. If you throw something off a roundabout, does the ball follow in the curved trajectory that the roundabout's taking? Or does it follow off in a straight line and seem to curve because you're still spinning underneath it when it leaves the reference frame? It's not conserving momentum. It's drifting at the rate that you spin underneath it. That's Coriolis. So you're asking, well, would this happen? Who cares? It's not Coriolis.
Right. No, I know. Yeah, I know. Because like I say, I think what the boarders want, I kind of think they accept it's not a board. I think they accept that. But what I think they want flat earthers to get is to understand their argument. So, like I said, if this was a board, would this happen? And then can we explain like their model? I think that's what
Wait
they.
a minute.
I know,
Kimo,
yeah, it's
what,
like pointless.
Kimo, what
but-
did you just say?
I know, it's kind of pointless, but that's the kind of thing, isn't it? So you
You
don't
know,
understand.
they
you
don't want us to understand their argument. This is one of
Yeah,
those
it's not-
arguments in which they make it so that it's as confusing as it can possibly be. But the problem is they're the ones confusing themselves. We understand this argument, right? The problem for them is that they have to tell you how we don't see Coriolis while the Coriolis effect is their argument,
Precisely.
right?
Their argument
they
is we
have-
see 15 degrees an hour because Earth's rotating underneath stuff. That's what they claim proves Earth spinning. 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth rotates underneath. That's their claim. And they haven't got it. So they say, well, if the Earth was spinning, will you explain to me whether or not we'd have conservation of momentum? Total red herring. You're claiming Earth spins underneath at 15 degrees an hour. No, we wouldn't see it drift because... So we don't have 15 degrees an hour then. That's how the argument goes.
Yeah, I mean, I get. I did explain this to him, but I'm just going through what he said. Just to review. But yeah, that
They claim the
you're
spin, but
absolutely
they
right.
don't
The
take the
object could move
responsibility for the spin.
underneath without any doubt. Without any doubt. So, but they would need gravity for it to work, which they don't have. So it's based on all presuppositions.
Huh?
And like I said, I think they just want us to understand the argument. Whether it's true or not. I don't think they're that bothered about whether it's true.
I'm more intrigued about your bit where you said that you believe that they don't believe that they're on a ball, but I interpreted what you then said to say we need them to understand how they philosophize about their ball that they don't actually believe in. They understand it's merely a philosophy. Is that what you were postulating there, Spurs?
That they just want us to. That's all they say is you don't understand. You don't understand. So, because when I'm breaking down Einstein Newtonian, they like, oh, he understands Einstein. He understands. It doesn't make it real. It doesn't make it true. It just means, well, he understands the argument. You see, and then that's why they try to say. Because I don't know if you noticed with their, like I say, conspiracy cats with Brummy. All he was doing was trying to say, well, what do you know? Do you understand? What do you know? Do you understand? And you don't know the difference between pressure and pressurized. It's like, what are you talking about? But that's how they do it. So whether it's real or not, they don't care. They just want to know, do you get
the problem is we operate on the really is level here in Flat Earth.
Yeah, that's what they don't like, yeah.
Kimo, can you tell me what show and who and what statement that you referred to as they don't believe they're on the ball?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, you started off this discussion by saying they don't even believe they're on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, the way they talk to you by, well, what's your model then? How does it work then? Where's the sun? So they don't believe.
Well, how do you get that? How do you extract that from that?
That's just a tactic. Reversal of the burden of proof.
Well, I mean, again, if you really believe something, you go out your way to demonstrate it. You wouldn't just say, oh, yeah, I believe in fairies, and if you don't want to believe it, that's up to you. You would really try. Like how we go out there, we go out of our way. People are buying cameras, they're going out to see.
That would probably hold very true if they could demonstrate it, but they can't.
Right.
Because if they could, none of us would be here right now talking about how they can't.
Chocolate is Yoda today. He's on fire. Absolutely spot on. If they could prove it, they'd just be proving it, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be asking you to hold up your false dichotomy model so they can demolish it and then claim their model's still true at the end of the demolishment, having justified nothing and proven nothing about their positive claim that Earth's a sphere with a molten iron core at the centre. Any evidence of that?
No, I guess they know. In fact, they like Nathan when you say it. They love the housekeeping questions because you're saying their model.
No, they don't.
Blathering about. I think Spurs is onto something here. I actually agree with you, Spurs. I think, number one, they all love the housekeeping because we're just talking about their philosophy, which they don't really believe in. I think they're all fake globers. I think you're right. They're all fakers.
I'm telling you, if you try to get... Because I said to Jem years ago, when this first was coming out, 1 in 2 people will be flat earthers. But I probably got that wrong. But the point is that a glober who can prove it, there's no one out there. No one on Earth can actually prove. So by default, they're kind of flat earthers, but just not knowing it. You know. So I don't think
Your
that when you
chemotherapy
talk
has
to
no
them,
Flat
bounds.
earther by that standard.
they
just
don't.
don't
But
know it.
like I say, it's more about understanding. You hear Rumpus all the time. You don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand. So it's just about being his peer. Are you on par with him? Do you understand this academical side? That's why they attack Anthony so profusely, because he understands the academical side of it. And you know, that's all they're all about. You know, do they understand the arguments? So,
Academic.
for me,
not academical.
academic, yeah. So for me, they don't. They know. Conspiracy cats know. You know, they're just looking to ridicule. You know, Simon Dan's just doing this thing. None of these guys. What's his face? Your foot guy, the thunder guy. He again. You know, they know. There's no globe. They're just getting.
Yeah, I love it. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. Keep saying it, Spurs. I think you're right. They know. I think I've exampled it myself with people like conspiracy cats when they project out what would happen if it was all true and if it was all lies and there was nothing but nonsense. Well, then the whole world would fall apart. Nah. But your life is falling apart mentally. You're just projecting it out as a hypothetical third person that you're detailing. But anybody who's even remotely savvy will read between the lines and know that those are your words describing how you feel. And they do. Because deep down inside, they know it's not a globe. It's completely untenable. It's laughable at this stage.
I'd like to hear...
Because when I'm on Jams and like they complain about, we won't go and speak to Nathan and we won't go and speak to QE because, the mute button and, So I'll say the same, we'll all say the same question to them in a different manner. Nothing. So I'll say to them, so you've got just excuses. You're using everyone else as an excuse not to give an answer, not to give a demonstration. So it's amazing how they just look for any excuse not to demonstrate. So they don't believe it. If they believed it, like I say, any person who was honest would go out, would move heaven and earth to prove their claim. Like what flat earthers have been all over the world trying to prove or demonstrate, or give the people something to consider here. So the ballers are not doing that by any means. They're not coming for the scientists. Where are they? PhD, very few of them. NASA employees.
Can you stop rambling?
Right.
Shut up for a second.
Hold on.
My
Right.
goodness.
10th man first, then Arwin. Hold on, Spurs. People want to reply. Go ahead, 10th man, then Arwin.
Well, I was going to say, I'd like to hear from our new sage, the new non-force chocolate Yoda, who has to say about this.
Well, me first.
Well, yeah, he can wait.
No,
Arwin, go ahead.
excuse me, I called Yoda.
Come on, just let Arwin get his words in, then Chocolate can reply.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, because I actually make it very short when I say something.
You make things short when you say something?
Yeah. Stop interrupting me.
God.
You're rumpusing me. Right. So, yes, Perskimo, if you think that's amazing, I don't know why you think that's amazing. I think it's idiotic. You know what an idiot is? Somebody who does the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. Well, guess what? That pretty much says it all, because that's exactly what the Globers are. Literally like that. The literal same things from 5 years ago. They try to sneak back to do it all over and over and over again, expecting this, different results.
Right.
That people will forget about flat Earth, and they don't. They do the opposite.
They say it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right.
Go ahead. Chocolate, are you there? Now word from Chocolate Yoda.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
We just want to feel the warmth and loveliness of your beautiful vibe that you're giving off today.
Oh, really?
No, here. Let me start it over. I said I'd like to hear from the non-force chocolate Yoda, our new sage, what he has to say about the Globers' psychological breakdown from chemotherapy, that they actually believe the Earth is not a ball.
I would say they want to keep believing it, but unfortunately, the more they pay attention, especially to this show, I think it's becoming more difficult every day, because you can see how now all they have are tactics, all they have are diversionary diversionary plans and just nonsense. They don't have any rebuttal. And even when one of their own turns, on them and starts asking them the same questions we have, they still can't respond to it. So,
Okay, Neil.
I mean, this has become joke level now, as far as I'm concerned.
It's pride right now.
Sorry,
There's
a
no
little
way
loud
these
at my
guys
job.
are going to come out of it.
Hold on, Chocolate. Go ahead, Neil. Say again.
It's pride right now. The Gem Pandas, Conspiracy Cats, all of these guys, there is no way it could be smack dead in their face like it is. They are not going to concede. Pride.
Yeah, we covered this in the pre-show. Zealots. Right? How can you possibly lose 10 times and come back the following day and say, well, of course I won? And assert the same exact argument. It's insanity. It's zealotry.
So I have a story from yesterday, quite interesting. So there was a guy who's been ringing around surveyors, and he's been asking about the formula and if the Earth curves and all these wonderful things. So he rang up this surveyor and he said, "Can you tell me the formula for the rate of curvature?" And he started laughing. He was like, "Formula?" He's like, "I think like fishermen use this formula back in the day. There is no. This is the geodetic surveyor saying all this." He was like, "The world is flat." He says, "Water's flat." He says, "We measure water flat." So anyway, I've uploaded this to my channel. I'll just put it in the debate chat box. I don't know if you put it in your chat, Nathan, because people really want to see this. This is amazing what happened. So I've uploaded the video of the guy speaking to the surveyor saying the world's flat, water's flat. Twitwit got hold of the video. She contacted the guy. She said, "Oh, this is outrageous. How can you take this guy's words out of context? He didn't say water's flat. He didn't say the world is flat. He didn't say he measures flat. He says there's curvature, all this kind of stuff." So she ended up contacting him, and pushing him to say that he didn't say all these things. So I've posted the link.
Wow.
In
Very
debate chat box.
interesting.
She got his phone number. She got his email. It was unbelievable. When you see this, you'll be like, "Whoa!" So I don't know if you've seen that video yet, Nathan.
I have seen it. I did listen to it over the weekend. I'll stick it up and I'll... What's the title?
That's funny.
It's called Flat Earth Debunked. Bridge Surveyor Accounts for Earth Curvature.
Yeah. So that was to tease the ball earthers because they seem to think geodetic surveyors account for curvature, but they don't. Not one of them actually measure water as curving or anything like this. So basically what happened was there was another surveyor who was called, and the guy cottoned on that it was a flat earther because he's gone, "Oh, what's the rate for curvature?" And the guy's gone, curvature, something like this. He's gone, "Oh yeah, we do account." And then by the end of the conversation, he's gone, "The world's not flat, it's a ball." So he'd obviously cottoned on and heard that there's a discussion about the flat Earth. But this other surveyor was being honest. He was just telling him how he sees the world and how he measures the world around him, and he wasn't prompted to say, "Yeah, we're on a ball, but what's the measurement?" and things like this. So. But the most amazing thing was, like I say, how quickly, within the hour of that video going up, ball earthers were contacting the surveyor to get him to retract, to change his mind, change his statement, change his words, and say, "Yeah, the Earth is a ball, not flat."
Isn't that very telling, Spurs?
Yeah.
Because if you're so comfortable with your ball, why are you nervous? Why are you contacting this guy, bothering him? Because of whatever statement he made, right?
Chocolate.
It's like that lady that says it's not okay to think the Earth
everyone,
is flat.
hold on. Did you not hear Spurs just asks Chemo a direct question? Let him answer.
Spurs asked Chemo, what do you mean?
Asked you, phrased it as a question. Isn't it very telling that they have to get in touch with said surveyor because they're so terrified of anybody going against the grain in terms of their affirmation of their philosophical viewpoint that the Earth is a sphere? So they need to get in touch. It's very telling. and he was asking for your opinion on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as an
Well,
echo.
someone
But yeah,
needs
absolutely,
to someone needs to get in touch with Andrew Thomas Young and tell him that he can do his refraction studies on a curved surface now, because he said he
Well,
did it on the plane.
They apparently they've already done that. Didn't Rumpus do that and contact them? And didn't the guy tell him you're not even using looming correctly?
Yeah,
yeah.
told
Right,
him.
but in his
So-
writings, he
but
said all of his refraction calculations are based on
Yeah,
plane
yeah.
surface.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, he wasn't going to try to address that. That's already in the paper. But
Right.
when whatever he did try to address, the guy told him that, oh, you're you're using the historical sense of looming. What the hell is that?
No, that's
That's
true.
the
But
problem.
that's,
Like again, with them trying to contact people and being very nervous. Remember, Rumpus was the same guy in that little hangout that they all had, where he was the one saying, "Oh, we need to contact these physicists and tell them that they have to stop telling people that gravity is a force, or it's not a force." I'm sorry, right? So all this nervousness that these guys have when they have to go contact these people, right? Fight the Flat Earth had to go contact George Musser because we were using his citation about gravity not being a force. Like all these things, man, they're so telling about how
Yes.
you guys don't, you're not on a ball. I think it's hilarious to me personally.
You connected the dots real well there, Chocolate. But my point is a standalone point. How come when Andrew Thomas Young did his refraction studies, he couldn't do it on the curved surface? He had to do it on a plane surface. Did the Earth change?
Nah, just Earth's flat. They just apply geometric considerations, and that's what Rumpus was told when he contacted him. Well, you just need to apply terrestrial refraction. Well, that's 7/6 of the radius. So just apply terrestrial refraction was the answer he got. Right,
Yep,
I'm going to, if you
question.
don't mind, I'm just going to play out, not because it's the interview that Spurs wants me to play, but because I like the intro. So just check out this, right? I'm going to play it for you guys. Have a listen to Spurs' intro to this video.
Psych. Not really. Did you really think the experts would disagree with me, Spurs Chemo, who says water is flat, the earth is flat, and we live in a flat world? Yep, the surveyors say it's flat, and anyone who is anyone with any sense says it's flat, knows it measures flat, observes flat, and is flat. But hey, let's call up the professionals, the qualified. How about we ask a surveyor that helped build the world's longest bridge and see what he has to say about it all? Make the call.
I think that's such a fantastic intro.
Nice.
That's great.
Hey,
A little
Chemo,
hip hop flavor to that, Spurs. I like that, man.
Chemo, give up chemotherapy and take up hip hop. I think you'll do better.
It's just the determination behind what he's saying. You think you can prove me wrong? You think you can prove it's not flat? You think you can prove it's a sphere? I just like that attitude. Right. I think it's the right attitude to take. It's the turning point came a few months back. Now we can just start being arrogant about the fact. You fundies have got a globe belief, and we've debunked your base assumption of an R value. Dead globe. We might as well start being a bit more bullshit about it. Good on you, Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, it's like just taking it directly to them. It's like, okay, so I wanted this because his name's Greg, because she called him. So we wanted Greg to come out and say, hey, what are you saying it's a flat earth for? I prove it's curved. We want these guys to come forward. And so, yeah, it's kind of like saying, well, they're agreeing with us. It's just regular guys who seem. But like my point was, what it made me realize is that we're at war. This is a real. You might not think it's a spiritual thing, but this is a real combative war. The fact that Twit was in position to be like, right, this is going to affect a lot of people. A lot of people will look at this surveyor and take his word as gospel. So we've got to do something about this. Because I'm always telling them, you've got to do something about this, guys. Flat Earth is just steamrolling forward, right? And you guys ain't really producing the goods. So something has to be done. And we've seen the censorship from YouTube. We've seen algorithms, and now we're seeing. I think because again, I was watching Gems last night. The dinner show. I forget what mine's all over the place, but Gems show that he has on a Sunday. So they've got psychologists on there now analyzing flat Earth, and one of their points was, well, Why don't we trust the professionals, the experts, when they tell us they've been to the moon, they've been to space?
I'd like to have one of these.
Let me get it
So
straight.
they're at
Hold
the
on,
point-
hold on. Let me get it straight. They question our faith. Is that right? How
Yeah, they're
beautiful
saying
is
that.
that?
Oh, hold on. They're saying that if you buy a tin of soup, okay, you don't start inspecting. Oh, well, maybe that's poisonous. Maybe it's not soup. You just buy the soup. You open up. You put it.
Yeah,
in
but
your
we
can,
can.
and you just eat the soup. You know, you're not like paranoid. Is what they're trying to allude to. Like,
I see. I
so-
see.
What?
No
I
worries.
read the soup ingredients first before I buy it.
Okay. So
And we
Any-
can if we want to.
let's just ask a few questions then. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
No.
Hold on. It's like soup, right? You can just show it me, right? I can just eat it.
Why don't you just
no, but you
believe
don't
it, Nathan?
question what's in the soup, right?
Hold on. Experts say gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force, right? This violation of the law of non-contradiction. So why don't I understand and accept when George Musa tells me, as an expert in this particular field of pseudoscience, that gravity is not a force, but then he also gives me permission in the next statement. You, meaning me, I can think of it as a force. I'll not think of it as a force. I'll think of it as being not a force, as that's what you've just told me. But why don't we accept those experts' statements? They don't even accept them, Spurs.
No, I mean, I think they're just talking in a broad stroke. You know, like the Brian Coxes, the Neil deGrasse's, the Bill.
I see. So if I gave you a Brian Cox quote, there isn't really a force of gravity at all, end quote, they would accept that, would they?
Some of it's half and half, you know, really. I mean, some of them accept it's not a force.
So this is
Some
a
of them
moot point
think it's
then.
still a
Only
force.
50% of their own side agrees with the priesthood when they're describing their religion, and they question our faith in their faith when only 50% of them agree with the priesthood that's telling them their rhetoric. Well, that's not a very good starting basis to question our faith in their pseudoscience, now is it, Spurs?
Again, they think there's some. I'm just saying that I'm saying the new tactic for the year, I think, is to analyze flat earthers as schizophrenic, paranoid individuals who do not trust authority, do not trust the experts. So they're going to try and label us as a new craze. This is, again, remember, they tried
So
to
they're
ridicule
projecting.
us. No, first they tried to ridicule us. Then they tried to ignore us. But we're too loud. We're too out there. We cannot be stopped. So now they have to have a new protocol, which is to discredit, make us look like we don't know what we're talking about.
Did you hear what 10th Man just said, Spurs?
That's point.
I've been trying that for 5 years.
Hold on. Did you hear what 10th Man just said? Can you repeat your last statement, 10th Man?
Yeah, they're just projecting where they're at on us.
But what you've just described, Spurs, is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
mean,
they're just
what else are you
projecting it
going
onto
to
us.
do?
It's the Hillary
When you've
Clinton
lost your-
defense.
Yeah, but again,
Sorry.
they've got the backative of a system, haven't they? And this is why I say
Spurs.
They
Spurs.
know-
What do you
when I
expect
hear-
them
when I
to
hear
do
Mr.
right now?
When I hear
Being
when I
that
hear,
they've
Mr.
lost their
Scott-
geometric horizon, the physicality of their leading edge of their sphere, they've lost it. Not only lost it, but they've given it up by saying we've never
it's worse.
seen it.
And no, they've
What
lost
else are they
it,
going
guys.
Are
to
you
do?
afraid of hostile psychologists, per schemo? Because
let's not
I don't care
psychoanalyze
there are a
Spurs.
bunch of experts out there making these ridiculous, spreading these ridiculous ideas about us, meta talking about us instead of actually addressing the facts that we deal with. So I don't care about that at
Well, that will
all.
come, Arwen. That will come. That will come. You know, like I said,
No,
you've got to see.
I think it's awesome that they do it.
You've got to
Go
look at
ahead.
their tactics.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Keep inspecting our mental state while you don't prove the globe that you think you live on. While you reel at the fact that you have no geometry, you have no physicality to your horizon.
Mhm.
It's a wrap for them.
Yeah,
They
I
know
volunteer.
it. So
I
this is
volunteer
this
for
is
study.
this is the route that they have to take, Spurs.
You're spot on,
Simple as
Chocolate,
that.
but Arwin's rumpusing you because he wants to get a word in. Go ahead, Arwin.
Yeah, I am rumpusing. No, but I volunteer myself for psychological study. I'm already doing it on myself on a daily basis, online, improvised. So I welcome them to come to me and then, bring me their analysis, and I'll actually feed it back to them about what about it is right and what is not. Because, I'm already
just like to say-
so nice of you to offer yourself as the Flat Earth lab rat.
I was going to
That's really
say,
cool.
I'd like to go on the record right now and say that any study done on Arwen has no reflection on any of the panel of member here today.
Yes.
Now that's very likely indeed.
I'll just sit back and laugh while you don't prove your globe, while you lose your geometry.
Right.
We'll just sit back and laugh at that while you keep screaming refraction for everything. You're begging the question fallacy. Yeah. Keep doing all of that. We love it, and that's why we're here. That's why we're still here, because this is the nonsense that you guys do. So keep going. Have fun.
Right. And I have no problem of being analyzed if it's at least as
We heard.
as long as
Arwen.
it's somewhat truthful. Because after it has been concluded, like, oh, you have this problem, you have that problem, then I'll say, okay, yeah, now that has been established, how about this fact of the geometric horizon not being there anymore? And then all of it won't matter shit.
Yes,
because then
precisely.
the facts are back on the table again.
You see, what Arwen's saying, very good point, Arwen, is fine, psychoanalyze me, dissect me mentally, give me a few tests, and when you're done, I'll ask you where the geometric horizon is that used to be a sphere edge that blocked boats and buildings with its physicality, and we'll see how much your documentation about me as an individual matters when your entire world paradigm is shattered with one question about the horizon.
Exactly.
Or how can you have gas pressure out of container?
I'm not afraid.
Yeah,
Good question,
we're all
Neil.
saying the same
Hold on,
thing.
we haven't had that yet. Hold on, go repeat. Neil, can you repeat that, please?
How can you have gas pressure without it being contained?
That's a very good question.
We could just throw the housekeeping back at them, Owen. Right after they're done analyzing, you throw the housekeeping questions back at them.
They can. Yes, they
I
can.
will.
An answer was given yesterday, actually. So they tried
I'll
to
probably
explain.
just stick to the geometrical horizon, though. That'll be enough for any psychologer to go nuts.
I agree. The black swan, just throw them the black swan after they've psychoanalyzed you and say, yeah, you've got a few problems, yeah. But no, I don't have a geometric horizon to show you.
I could just
I
see
feel
this
bad for
guy
telling
showing
them this,
Arwen
Nathan.
an inkblot
Like,
picture.
I know you
Says, "What does
enjoy
this
it.
look
It's-
like?"
Hold on,
And
10th.
Arwen says,
Spurs is trying to inject his empathy for the Globers. Go ahead, Spurs.
"Oh my!"
I really like when I'm there and I'm saying to them, guys, you've got no horizon. There's no physical geometric horizon. I can feel the sadness around the room. It's like, what do I do? Do I just keep telling them and just keep saying to them, you've got no.
The violins start
so-
playing.
It's not a good
Great.
feeling, really. I mean, it's like, what do you do? I mean, where do they go from here? Where do they go from there? And you just have to keep telling them, and it kind of turns mean. It sounds mean and horrible because, they can't escape it, can they? If they're going to be
Yeah, it must
involved,
be very painful for them.
It's not
So-
really nice. It really is.
So Spurs, when they show the inkblot pictures to Arwen one after another, and his answer's the same, what does this look like to you? Black Swan. How about this one? Black Swan. How about this one? Black Swan. Is that going to get him?
It's really damaging them, So I just think as humans we're supposed to help fellow man and whatnot, and help kind of help them see
Oh
their way.
my
And things like this.
gosh! We
So,
are
Yeah,
helping
men.
them by telling them the truth.
Spurs.
What is your problem, Spurs?
It's too early for Kumbaya songs.
Yeah, God.
You get
Spare
the
your
marshmallows
campfire.
and cookies.
We'll all sit hands around the campfire, right?
But
First,
we
if you tell them the
don't,
truth
think
and
about
they have
it,
a
right, we're
brain
gonna
freeze,
have
did you help them
mass,
or hurt them?
mass. I don't want to say it, but you're gonna have a lot of people just not seeing any purpose with life and just kind of,
Spurs.
what I
When you
mean?
tell
So-
them the truth, are you helping them or hurting them?
That's this double-edged sword. Are we helping them or hurting them?
Answer the
We are
simple
helping them.
question. What's your motivation, Spurs, when you tell them the truth? To hurt them or help them?
That's
Answer that
why
one.
it's to help them. That's why they need therapy afterwards. Otherwise, they're likely to do something.
Okay, what if
silly.
after you tell them they refuse therapy? Now what?
You get like Nathan, you leave him in the road bleeding like I would.
Yeah. Unzip your fly, dangle your nuts in their mouth and go, Fundy.
Because I remember one guest on one of the shows. He was like 60 years old, and he was like, "Well, I've just found out that it's not a globe." he was like, what do I do now? My whole life I've been lied to. He's like, I really thought the moon landers were real. We're not, he goes, where do I go from here?
Don't worry about it. Go out and do a bit of gardening, get on with life. Don't let it stress you out, is the point. Feel relieved. Feel like a load is off your back. You don't have to look forward to the bleakness of oblivion. You don't have to look up at the sky and think it's bazillion miles. You just have to accept those
monthly
things.
deadly meteor threatening you. Remember?
It's nothing to do. What's
just
to
going
do?
back to what you said before, imagine the nervousness in them when a geodetic surveyor came out and said, flat, water's flat, everything's flat. And they had to scramble around. Like, now, I don't know Twitwit that well, but as far as I know, she always seemed, she's a Glober. She's always seemed kind of neutral, right? Doesn't seem like a staunch Glober that's going to try to do something like that. But to me, it's very, very telling that she or whoever put her up to it or whatever the hell happened had to go and contact this person to get them to take back what they said. That is so telling to me. I'm sitting here just kind of just laughing about it in my head because it's hilarious.
Yeah,
because if the world was a globe, it would just be a globe, and you wouldn't have to do things like that. Because first off, you would have your geodetic surveyor tell you, well, yeah, of course it's a ball. We measure that. That's what it is. But even they didn't tell you that, right?
Even the geodetic surveyors say they're working on the plane.
Yeah. And that's a big problem, apparently. So they had to go contact this guy and say, "Hey, what are you saying over there, guy?"
Yeah, if she'd have known what to do, she'd have got in touch with him and said, "Hang on a second, right? Don't you survey a tangent plane? And what's the tangent bit when you put your stick down and decide where you are? Well, your tangent bit is where you presuppose you're on a sphere. Now, next time you talk to somebody, make sure you focus on your presupposition that your stick is on the ground and where it points to the centre of Earth by way of presupposition before you start measuring it all flat. You need to focus on that, you bad geodetic surveyor."
If you know what's good for you.
If you know what's good for you, we'll have your family's jobs, your job. You'll be out of business.
Okay. Yeah, well, if anything was true, they'd be able to demonstrate at least something.
Exactly.
Like I said, for me, they don't believe it. There's just no way in this real world with real people, with real humans, if they are humans, there's just no way a human would go about proving or demonstrating something in the fashion that they've gone about it.
You think
Spurs
would?
Spurs.
Yes, they would. That's per definition human.
Check out how Spurs triggers the flatties. I love it.
Hang on, Spurs. You just said it right there. If they don't believe it, why do they need therapy afterwards if there's no afterwards?
Yeah, you are kind of contradicting yourself there, Spurs.
No, but could they've been indoctrinated, haven't they? They've been programmed. They're trying to...
So then they do believe it.
If you're indoctrinated,
then they believe it.
something.
Yeah, you're just highlighting your own contradiction there, Spurs.
No. Once these guys are aware of the argument, they now know it's not a globe. So
yeah, I agree, at a deep level, but that's subconsciously. Verbally and outwardly, they're fighting it. That's why I say share your pain. Because, like I say, I've referenced this so many times. Go and check out Conspiracy Cat's interview with Haunted House, where he projects out his fear and anxiety about what you're calling his understanding that Earth is definitely not a sphere. He understands it at a subconscious level, and he's fighting it every step of the way. That's why they're here.
Yeah. It's like Brummy was saying he was 80-20, but that 20 was just a psychological. Not because of he needs any proof. It's just getting rid of, like you were saying the other day, of the old rhetoric, the old paradigm, the old way of speaking.
Being honest.
And
Speaking
I think a
of
lot of the ballers
Tommy, did he ever get Katz to answer the question that he said he would before the end of the show, which he never did?
We never answered it.
We never got there. No, they never will get there. Again, all we can do is just raise maximum awareness as they try to shut us down because we're at war. This is a battle. And it showed me, especially when Twit called up that guy. I mean, that said everything. Why would you call him up and, encourage him to say, well, you didn't say it was flat, right? You didn't say water's flat, right? That's not
You have
normal.
that on video somewhere? Can I listen to that?
Yeah, I'll show the link
I've
now.
got
It's going in the live
Put
stream.
the link in the chat.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to hear that.
The reason Twit did what Twit did is on the screen right now with Nathan's picture.
So this is the 5 stages of loss. So you've got denial. Stupid flat earthers, of course not. And then anger. How dare you assert that Earth isn't a sphere? And then bargaining, which is where we reside. This is the bargaining stage. Now, the reason we don't get many concessions here is because you can probably see it in the distance. Depression. Yeah? Oh no, I've been lied to. Oh no, what a fool I've been. Yeah. Well, we don't get much of that. People would rather revert to anger and denial from bargaining. Go backwards in those steps, and they go round and round and round in circles. It's probably very painful for them. Eventually, after the depression stage, you have acceptance. Acceptance that you've been lied to. The horizon in this image is not a physical geometric sphere edge. We've debunked it. It's untenable. The model's not real. It's just a philosophy. You just thought you were on a sphere because you had a philosophical outlook about how the sky was described. Well, so what? You were wrong. The fact that it was perpetuated to you on every TV screen you ever watched is irrelevant. More fool you. Hey, Paul.
Hello. How you doing?
Hello. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What's gravity?
Nathan, I didn't get to answer the gas pressure one. Because I saw, there was a baller yesterday, and he said to Brummy that how he knows gas pressure outside without the container is because they can put gas inside a container where it's a higher pressure and it's lower pressure outside. He thinks no, so I don't know.
Oh my god!
But they needed a container. Yeah,
a container, correct?
Yeah, but he said that the gas outside of the container was lower pressure.
That's nice. Definitely still needed a container though to have the differential.
I don't
in
know.
that
Again,
instance.
that's what he said to Brummy yesterday or the day before. Yeah.
It goes back to we still have pressure here on Earth. So
we get these answers all the time, Spurs. We get, of course, you can have gas pressure without a container. Now, have a look at this container. That's what we get.
Yeah, you need a container to measure pressure.
Is there any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No. It's actually impossible, isn't it?
Well, the days of them saying that they had scientific evidence for us being on the globe, that the whole body of science proved we're on a globe, that we were science deniers for saying we weren't on a globe, those days seem so long ago, don't they?
It seems so weird.
They're
like
still saying it though, but
that was a thing. That of course we've got science for the globe. Of course we've got science for the globe, and it's just so odd to see today that they have no science for the globe. It's so weird. That is just so crazy. And they still think it's science, though. They'll still think what they do is science. And
here's what they think. They're deranged.
Yeah, they're zealots.
It's that when they were telling us that they have all this science that proves the globe, we were just supposed to say, "Oh, okay, well that seems legit. That's cool." Nah. Instead, what we did was, "Hey, can we see that science? Can we validate that? Can you demonstrate that?" And they had to scramble around and say, "Oh,
just Google it.
We don't have that. We don't have that." So now in 2020, science doesn't prove anything. Okay, because when my ears hear that, all I hear is all this bullshit. Years ago, you told us that we had all the science for the globe. You guys were lying. That's it. And you've conceded it. Thanks.
Yeah, we just have to look it up.
The so-called experts will say, and this might not go down well again, but we've got to talk about it. We have to talk about it. So they'll say things like that. We might have a Dunning-Kruger. So like we're here now, just a small group. Now let's try to hear me out a little bit. So we're here, have a small group, small set of people. We're celebrating while the rest of the world still believes they're on a globe, going to Mars, going to the moon. I don't know how we can label this. I mean, it's how is the rest of the world wrong not seeing this, and this handful of people, how did we do this?
Who cares? You're so concerned with they. You know, it's like once you've figured this out, okay, you recognise that the person, you can call it, is it Stockholm Syndrome? Or something like that, something Munchausen or something like that, where you fall in love with your captor and will actually go to the effort of defend. Stockholm Syndrome. That's what people are suffering from. You know, their captor in this instance is the purveyors of the lie. And in most instances, when you dig into it, it's just yourself. In other words, the person that you can find that's a source of information for this heliocentric deception, or the perpetration of the idea that a heliocentric philosophy, a way of looking at and philosophizing the movement of the stars, is actually you standing on a physical sphere with a physical sphere-edge horizon that you can measure how much it blocks things in the distance. Well, that step is normally down to individuals propping up their own web of deceit, making it square a circle where it doesn't necessarily make sense, with doublespeak and convoluted nonsense. Now, the person who looks into it has got two choices. We've had the same choice, all of us. Either accept the doublespeak nonsense contradictions, or go, hang on, these are doublespeak nonsense contradictions. Why would I ever accept this nonsense? Now, at that crossroads, you can then say, if you choose the other path, I accept the doublespeak nonsense contradictions, well, I'm in the majority. I and they all agree. And why don't you also agree? Well, they're in the same boat as I'm criticising you for, Spurs. Why do you care what I believe? If you see what I think and recognise of my natural world as being a belief, when it's the obvious and observable nature of reality, then you can call it a belief if you choose. But why do you care that I've recognised the lies and deceit and can point out where they are lies and deceit and demonstrate things like models, pseudoscience models, as untenable when compared to reality? Why'd you care? Like, I think it was Chocolate earlier.
Because they're in a cult.
It's a bit of a burden, Nathan, to know that we potentially have outsmarted, outwitted,
What potentially?
every scientist, mathematician, astrologist, every PhD person with a degree, all the university students, you know, every single one in society. We have outsmarted. It's a bit of a burden, Nathan, right?
That's their problem. You're not stating that. I'm not sat here going, aren't I ace? I've outsmarted all the PhDs. I'm not saying that. So, because I don't care. But they care because they are adhering to the doublespeak contradictions I mentioned earlier when you referenced the PhDs. Well, hold on. If this doublespeak contradiction that I'm trying to parrot and you don't understand isn't correct, then that would imply you, the flat earther, have outsmarted the PhD I put all my trust in. Well, that can't be right. Now, they worry about that. I don't care. So what? So they were deceived. I wouldn't gloat. I'd say more fool you. Not say, oh, aren't I smart for pointing out how wrong you were about us flying around a sun when it's merely a philosophy. Just more fool you. You should have realised it earlier. Feel stupid if you're supposed to be smart.
Okay.
All we have to do...
The way the world kind of works, again, just looking for your opinion,
for
basically, Nathan, on these things. I'm not
post,
really arguing. So, the way the world works...
Come on, there's chemo. There's other people here too, you know.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Arwin. Nathan, can you post what I put in Master B, which is Andrew Thomas Young from his refraction studies, and tell me go and I'll read it.
Okay.
All right. This is Andrew Thomas Young on refraction calculations. This is the last paragraph of that one page. All the discussion above deals with plane surfaces. I didn't say that. Nathan didn't say that. Andrew Thomas Young did. But the Earth isn't flat. Now, what this twit person did was pretty much go to a geodetic surveyor who is saying the same thing. So if I may, since I haven't watched the show, I'll take liberties, correct me if I'm wrong. The geodetic surveyor was saying, everything I do is on the plane surface. And then when Twit got a hold of this person, now the geodetic surveyor is saying, but we know the Earth isn't flat. Except the fact that everything you do is based on reality and it's on the plane surface. This is psychosis of some kind.
Or compartmentalization, to say the least.
Well, at least Andrew Thomas Young says we take geometrical considerations to make an atmosphere curve, but it's not real.
Well, did the guy that had to say that actually, or did say that, whether he thought he had to or not, did he actually say no, the Earth is not flat in his
that's what he
mind,
says
or
in
did
the
he say,
statement.
wait, the globe as you foresee it, that cannot be flat? Did he compartmentalize it in his mind to kind of get out of it, or do you really think he meant that? I don't think so.
Yeah, but even Larry Scott, he's a professional surveyor, is claiming that now he can do measurements without angles. You understand? They're in such a corner pushed in that they have to try and figure out anything to make it look like a sphere.
Just a model. He's referring to the model. He just says, but the Earth is not flat, which is just his step in the reification process. Now, when you are sorting out your confirmation bias, and by sorting out, I mean finding in the material your confirmation bias, you're going to read that as a very positive statement and just take the rest as irrelevant. Okay, so all of these refraction calculations are done on a flat surface. But he says right after, but the Earth's not flat, so therefore I'll just take that statement. It's like, well, hold on, you're asserting that we've got geometric 7/6R refraction because he tells you to flick to a different page and understand how the reification of geometric refraction works when applying the straight and flat level surfaces that he actually did his refraction measurements on. Well, you can choose to actually read what he's doing, which is what 10th Man highlights repeatedly and with good cause, or you can just read the one statement where the guy who's reifying a model, a philosophy, states to you that your Earth isn't flat. Okay, well, you can take whichever bit you like. The fact remains that he's doing his studies on a flat surface. The geodetic survey is measuring a presupposed tangent and then measuring a flat surface. The Earth's flat. The fact that there's a philosophy that is the prevalent worldview in the Western society doesn't mean that the Earth is not anything other than it presents itself as. It just means that people have reified a philosophy into an assumption that they've got a spherical surface actually beneath their feet. They haven't. We don't have physical sphere edges for horizons, and we don't have outer space. The whole thing's a nonsense. It's been taken too far. It's just a philosophy and way of looking at the stars and trying to understand their movements. That's all it is. Any more to add? Any more for any more? With that, I will say, if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Well, yeah, if that's what they were, then you're usually going to follow in the same perspective that they were given.
I remember watching the supposed moon landings at 5 years old with my father. I remember sitting in front of the TV. It was a big event.
Hey, can I
Also,
start
it was a
off the after show with a
propaganda
pun?
thing of the century.
Yeah, and now in 2020 we can look at it and see that it's stop motion animation, it's fake as all fuck, and clearly they couldn't be travelling to a fake place that doesn't exist. We wouldn't have any gas to breathe if they were travelling through a vacuum, so the whole thing's a nonsense.
Like I said, there was church fathers that fought against this. Calvin and Martin Luther directly contradicted everything Copernicus said.
You know, when I first heard the Dunning-Kruger statement, I thought it was a men's clothing store where ballers go because it's a very suitable store for them because they have a vested interest.
I thought it sounded like a kebab chain store or something.
Dolce Gabbana.
Right? It's like a kebab shop or something.
Dunning-Kruger, a kebab shop? Is that Middle Eastern? Well, you do get skewered over there with falsehoods.
It's a joke. I'm just mad that I didn't catch it earlier.
Don't worry, Neil. You're here at the right time, at the right place.
But I was asking my teachers questions as a little child. Especially the part where they were telling me that in Australia, people are actually antipodal to where we are. That really messed up my brain.
I think most people, when they hear this stuff at a young age, initially say, what? But then the few stand out and fight it. And then all of them that know there's something wrong eventually come around and see it was a lie.
Yeah, but my cousin's a school teacher. When I speak this to her, she says, no. In Australia, it seems like they're right side up because it's relative to where you are. So they're standing upright, and it's just a cluster. You know what?
Well, the school teachers are repeating the lesson plan of the day. They're just puppets, most of them.
I'm sorry. I never had any trouble whatsoever imagining that they would be on the other side of the ball and that the gravity would have a different direction. I still don't have a lot of trouble.
What?
I was never conditioned. I just never thought it was that.
No,
silly.
Arvin's right. Arvin's right. He used the key word, imagining.
Right. Because I learned to build on my imagination before I learned to build on reality. Like a lot of people, by the way.
No, but
I was a natural dreamer anyway, so that all worked very easily.
Okay.
I was the little kid that would back up and echo the teacher if somebody else didn't get it, like you, Neil.
Yeah, but Arwin, didn't it seem like they would fall off to you? You never once thought of that? Like, how are they
People have
standing
the
and how
desire
far
to
they are?
fall in line.
Neil, calm down.
You guys should be very happy
debating at
I'm
like
on your
7 years
side.
old.
The critical
Me
words
and
that Arwen
Arwen would have been
said.
debating at like 8.
Arwen summed it up when he pointed out that the critical bit of the information that Arwen put across, or the bit that I thought was the most important, was that he's utilising his imagination. Well, when do you get taught this? Well, you get taught it when you're about 5 or 6 years old, and your imagination is the most important thing in your life, not analysation of critical information. That's not what you're doing at 5 and 6 years old. You're using your imagination, and that's when they teach it you. They don't teach it you after that, because it's not necessary. They once it's embedded in your imagination, that's it. It's there. Part of your paradigm.
And I had it like a double because my parents were also like from a creative musicians and kind of hippie-ish family. So they really kept on reinforcing that. Like, yeah, your imagination is your toolbox kind of thing. And it was. I was drawing things, imagining things, asking weird questions, kind of like I'm still doing now. So I was raised to rely on my imagination kind of first. And yeah,
So you
that
never grow up?
does make it a lot easier to imagine the ball and how it should be working. So,
Well, they do make it like extravagant, right? Like how it's so big and it's moving and we're on it, but it's appears flat.
It's everywhere. It's in the pictures. It's in the commercials. It's in the movies. It's at the entrance of the credits. They're just pushing it because they know at 5 and 6 years old they got you to imagine it. So this all makes sense the way they're doing it.
right. And it was kept in there with me for a very long time because pretty early on I was asking questions to them. Like how is this? Like, what is known, what is really not known? And yeah, some of them, I don't know if it was NASA people or whoever, they basically told me like, yeah, it's still kind of developing. We're all still in the works of figuring it out. And when that got through to me, then I started to understand like, wait, it may actually be a ball, but there will be people inserting their insights about how it should be, and they might get it wrong. And then I would, from a believer standpoint, very honest believer, would correct them. Like, no, it should technically be more like this. That makes more sense. Yeah, it's very weird how that worked out, like in my teens, like that. But
hey everybody, hey Nathan.
Hey, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Good morning.
How are things?
Good.
Good. Flat Earth.
Still flat.
Still flat.
Yeah. Life's pretty sweet, Brian. How's things with you?
Things are good. Just listening to the conversation there, I remember I lost all faith in NASA a long time ago. Because for me, it was like, where are the aliens? That's what I wanted to know. Where are these aliens you keep telling us about? And they could never produce any aliens or stuff like that. So any questions to NASA about where are the aliens were always deflected. So NASA for me were a complete farce before I even heard about Flat Earth.
What? Don't give up. They're coming
Come on.
next.
You didn't know that they had a political function as well? They could never declassify that. It's not NASA's function. You know,
Yeah.
they're there to make people enthusiastic for space projects. They, from a believer standpoint, that's kind of what they did admit to me, because some of them were like, yeah, aliens. It's not, you know, there may be some things about that, but we don't really talk about it. And besides, it may scare some kids or bring objections.
I saw, this is a perfect segue. I saw a meme either yesterday or this morning early that showed a bunch of these aliens congregating, ready to do something. And it said underneath, I think we're up next.
What?
Oh, that's the next
it'll
play.
happen.
There's gonna be this false alien thing coming up next, more than likely. I mean, they've been conditioning it forever. UFOs, abductions, you know it's coming. How and why?
Well, they
gonna
have
be the
been
great
starting to
fucking way.
admit to things here and there, haven't they?
I think that's going to be the great falling away of the church when they present aliens.
It's
Well,
going to
that-
be a mess either way, but one thing for sure, the only viable way that I can imagine them doing something like that is getting the aliens in through the media, then making it a false dichotomy to divert attention from all the mess they've left behind, and then eventually come to an agreement that they need to work together to overcome the problems of the outside world resisting them. That
Well,
would be the way
that-
to apply it.
That's a good point, but you take it a step further, Arwen. So, you know, no one on the surface, the way that they're pushing their narratives, is agreeing with everyone. Countries are against countries, blah, blah, blah. So now you need an outside force to bring these people together. So it could be just for that, and then they still get to do what they want to do using fake aliens.
Yeah, all the forces in the world are not going to stop entropy, though.
I
It
don't.
does apply, by the way.
I don't know if there's other nations past the horizon or something. I don't know that. I don't know if there's other beings or whatever. I can't say anything about that. But the whole alien thing was excellent because for the Earth, for the globe, it was excellent because it allowed them to give us a conspiracy theory to hold on to that also allowed us to hold on to the globe, because everyone wanted to know how they were defying gravity. Which now we know gravity doesn't exist, but everyone wanted to know how were they defying gravity with these anti-gravity machines, you know, these aliens had, you know. So it was, they gave us a conspiracy theory for us to hold on to.
That's the condition.
When
That's
the
the
aliens
condition.
come, ask them how gravity works.
But that's the conditioning, Brian. You're spot on.
But seriously, what would they even answer? Would they be prepared for an alien answer to those questions? That would be so weird, man. Like, ask the alien ambassador about gravity. What is it? How does it work?
Too funny. Hey, Brian, while you're on, give us a summary of your show that you did a few months ago on Cartesian references and plane, how the geodetics do all their surveying on the plane, and then they change it to their globe.
That's what I was going to ask.
Can you give us like a 3-minute rundown on that?
I will do, actually. It was something that I was listening to you earlier, and I couldn't come on at the time, and I was thinking about it. It's something that a lot of flat earthers are getting very wrong out there. I'll say why afterwards. What they do is they start out with the pre-assumption of the globe. Then they turn this into an oblate spheroid, which is the ellipsoid. which is by admission from one of the surveyors on the ball side, a mathematical reference model. So they have a mathematical reference model, which is a WGS84 or the NGS80 or whatever, one of these ellipsoids. And then they also have a geoid. A geoid just represents mean sea level. And then they localize these several times over until they get down to an actual realistic point when they actually can survey with equipment. And then they survey everything into Cartesian coordinate systems, which are all based on a flat Earth. They will use what's known as polar coordinate systems, but they're 2D flat Earth only systems, whereas Cartesian gives them a 3D system. And what they'll do then is, once they have everything mapped out on a flat Earth with Cartesian coordinates, they then mathematically convert that. All these Cartesian coordinates are converted to match the ellipsoid that they came up with earlier, which is the WGS84. And the WGS84 is based on the latitude and longitude lines. And they're based off of 2D navigation from mariners back a long time ago, and people a long time ago looking at the sky. So when you look at Google Earth and you see your location, let's say you hover your mouse over a location, it gives you a latitude and longitude, and then it gives you an elevation. But there's no 3D in latitude and longitude. Geographical coordinates is 2D only. So when you're seeing elevation there, they only have that elevation because they made 3D Cartesian coordinate systems. So the whole thing is always based on flat.
Yeah, there's no drop. So QE did a whole show on this. There's no drop in Google Earth.
No. Absolutely no. A lot of flat earthers don't realize that all the surveying, whether it's planar or geodetic, militaries, airliners, like aerospace, and navigation, which is GPS and any other supposed satellite system, GNSS, any of these, they all use Cartesian coordinate systems all the time, all day, every day. But the problem is that what happens is that when people, the ordinary everyday person, gets their coordinates, or often the coordinates are given to people in latitude and longitude. So people just believe in latitude and longitude, but they don't realize that that's always converted from Cartesian, always. You know, where flat earthers are going wrong out there is they're bringing up I've heard it going on some on Gem Pandas and other places where someone will bring up Cartesian coordinate systems who are on the flat Earth side, and someone will on the ball side will bring up the ECEF system, which uses Cartesian coordinates, but it isn't actually Cartesian coordinates itself. It just uses an XYZ system through a pre-assumed sphere with a radius value of 3959 miles. So what happens is they bring up that, and the flat earthers have not done their research. They've not been listening. The two presentations I did on your show, Nathan, and on Jose's, they just weren't listening, and they're not doing their research. So what's happening is the ballers are bringing up things like the ECEF system, or the ITRF system, and it's shutting them down. And what's happening then is the ballers are coming up with, there's diverging zenith angles. But you cannot have, there's no such thing as a zenith. There's no physical zenith. The zenith is just a conceptual thing. So,
yeah, but they take,
but
that's critical.
Sorry?
The zenith is the most critical bit, right? Because in both Earth-centered, Earth-fixed, or ECEF, and the geodetic surveyors, again explained by you and Bev, they're both doing the same thing. They're taking your zenith and pointing it to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. So Earth-centered, Earth-fixed does exactly that. Has you pointing yourself from your zenith to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. It's the clue's in the title, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they start the very zenith that they send to the centre of the Earth is the very one that they put a Cartesian coordinate system around. So my question to people when they bring up this, I say, well, show me 9 Cartesian coordinate systems that are all of the same dimensions working on a globe, and none of them can ever do it. Show me the diverging zeniths there. They can't do it. But the problem is flat earthers are not learning enough about this, and so they're bringing up the argument, and the globers are shutting them down with stupid stuff like diverging zeniths. And they're trying to come up with, I've heard stupid arguments from the flat earthers. Instead of just saying I don't know, I've heard stupid arguments from them. So they need to learn a bit more about that, because that's going to become a bigger deal. Because it's going to become a bigger deal in the future, because it's going to become very obvious that these Cartesian coordinates systems are used for everything, which sort of, it's all because it has to be, because we're referencing flat. You can't have latitude and longitude coordinates without them.
Well, you're
so
diverging.
Brian, is that why?
Go on.
I'm sorry.
Go on.
Okay,
Ted.
yeah. So Brian, when I talked to a person who used the sextant for navigation, and after watching all those videos and reading PDFs, all that, I said, why, when you use the sextant, do they say you got to imagine the Earth is motionless and the stars are moving? His answer was because it works easier that way.
Yeah, because that's reality. They complicate everything. Like you all know, right? Everything to do with the globe and the globers, everything is always complicated. You have to complicate absolutely everything, because they're trying to prove something that's exactly opposite from reality. The fact that we don't move and the sky does, and they believe we're moving and it's not, is completely opposite from reality. So that's one thing they're trying to prove as a definite that is completely opposite from our reality. So, everything is always, everything has to reference, like aerospace, they always have to reference a motionless flat Earth. But, they have to believe they're flying over a moving ball.
Well, that's what I was going to step in with earlier. So when you say diverging zeniths, I'll use the geodetic surveys to example this. That's always the precursor to anything they actually do. So when you detail how they actually have to deal and cope with a flat, non-rotating surface that they're dealing with, because that's what it is, they will also, before that, make the presupposition that their zenith is pointing to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Now, if they're to move to a different location, they're going to reference something like Earth-centred, Earth-fixed, to say that upon moving, they're now pointing at a different point of the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, because they've moved over the spherical surface that they're presuming. But from that point forward, they have to actually deal with the flat plane. So when you say things like diverging zeniths, all I hear is, without necessarily having heard the term before, it's never been phrased that way, just by coincidence. Immediately, all I hear is begging the question. So just an automatic assumption that you're going to be moving over a spherical surface. But in reality, when you dig into any of these things, like earlier with 10th Man's example, with Andrew Thomas Young, detailing refraction, well, let's assume it's bent at 7/6R. Well, that assumption is automatically overridden by the fact that the actual tests are done on a flat surface.
Exactly. It's begging the question from the very start. And I'm very happy that you and other people on the panel get it, because outside of us, I don't know about the rest of the flat Earth if they get it, because I hear them arguing, and some of them are bringing it up, and they're not sure of it, and it's getting shut down, and they're kind of walking away from it. But I know we get it, exactly what they're doing. That's all they ever do with everything, isn't it? Beg the question.
Well, there's a paper trail for this. In navigation, the people who use the sextant say you have to imagine the Earth is still and the stars are moving. That's evidence number one. Evidence number two, all the NASA documents, Martin Marietta Space Company, McDonnell Douglas, etc. We've already read those documents that say that their instruments and their so-called satellites and all the things they put in the ISS is over a flat, motionless plane. So there's number two. And so if you just keep going down the list and you get to geodetics, and where if you move, you have to start a brand new plane with a new zenith, what are you saying?
Yeah, if you look at the map that's used by the militaries, I think the US, or the militaries in general, use the universal, Traverse Mercator, Universal Traverse Mercator, I think it's called. And it's just a grid map. And but the way it's laid out in a cylinder format. So the way you get it, where you might see where the US is at one side and you have China at the other side of the map, and everywhere else is in between. This kind of thing. So it's not laid out like an AE map where you have the Arctic in the center. They lay it out like that. So it doesn't look like what the world would look like, let's say, from a bird's eye view. But it's all using the UTM map. I can't remember the proper name. The UTM map. It's everything. It's all based on a grid system. So it's all based on, they're all using Cartesian coordinate systems. And what people don't realize, and some of the ballers try to argue with me about it, is that the whole point of a grid system is that all the squares and, let's just say, all the cubes for 3D or squares for 2D have to be of the exact same dimensions and area and volume. So you can't have squares going around like a disco ball where the squares up at the top of it are smaller than the ones at the equator of. That doesn't work. It makes it a pointless system. So it can't work any other way but flat. It has to be a flat plane. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to use that. If it wasn't a flat plane, they wouldn't be using Cartesian coordinate systems or polar coordinate systems.
Wrong.
Well said.
So, what was he wrong about that? What was he wrong about?
Yeah,
Ed?
I want to hear how he's wrong.
Please inform all of us how he was wrong, Mr. Ed. Of course.
Ed Freeze.
Yeah, Mr. Ed. What's going on, man?
Right.
Yeah, that's what Ed does. He just say you're wrong or declare no, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's his argument. That's it, Chocolate.
Yeah, I guess.
That's all he does.
That's
all he does every day.
Nothing more for Mr. Ed, huh? I'm gonna start calling you Mr. Ed. Fucking horse.
Well, we heard it from the horse's mouth. You're wrong.
Just no.
Don't
I wanted
dare
to
insult
correct you
Mr.
on that.
Ed like
I wanted
that.
to correct
Mr. Ed
Brian.
is also
Hold on.
intelligent.
Hold on. Relax. Wanted to correct Brian on that. That's not an ellipsoid. According to Soundly, it's an approximate elliptoid.
I was gonna say that to Brian too. I was like, "You sure you don't mean the elliptoid?"
Yeah, these ballers, they don't even know how to say words. Sorry, Neil, I cut in on you there. Sorry.
I was just saying that Mr. Ed had more intelligence than Mr. Ed Freeze.
Well, maybe he had a frog in his throat and he meant elliptoid, not elliptoid.
There was something I was going to talk about, if you don't mind. It's about Rumpus and Samuel Rowbotham. Has anyone heard that Rumpus is doing a canal investigation? He's setting up his own canal investigation. Has he been in saying that?
Well, knowing Rumpus, that should be about ready in about 2025 or so.
If that. Aren't we still waiting on citations from him?
Sorry, Neil?
Aren't we still waiting on citations from Rumpus?
There's a lot we're waiting on from Rumpus. But as the case may be, the devil is in the detail. It's 99% done.
I was listening to him on Jose's a few weeks ago talking about this. And he actually has made some inroads to getting it done. He has some GoFundMe set up for getting certain equipment, and he's getting a lot of help off the ball side.
Is he calling it an experiment?
I can't remember. I don't remember what he called it, so I'm not going to say he did because I don't remember.
No,
just to be honest,
he's not. He's actually not calling it an experiment. He's calling it a demonstration.
All right, cool.
I sent Jose. I was listening to it, and I put a thing in the chat. Ask Rumpus what will happen if he finds it to be flat. What will he do? What will he say? And Rumpus, Jose asked him this, and Rumpus said that if he finds it, if he doesn't have to dip his camera angle down, then he'll be definitely asking questions. Now, what he was saying there,
All this whole game is angular. They disregard angular size change. All they have to do is look down the Z and say, "Oh, it's getting lower." Well, yeah. Well, go to the side of that thing, right, and look on the x-axis of it and see if it's doing the same thing. Friggin' clowns! This is a friggin' carnival tent show. That's all it is. They're Muppets. Numpty type dipshits, one each.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
I know
what I was.
It's always been exactly it. Why are we even talking about it?
Well, I was going to make a reference to something, just to how ridiculous this whole thing is. The fact that he said that. I don't know how long ago it was that Samuel Rowbotham was around, but the reason Samuel Rowbotham won the bet when he did that investigation on the canal, the Bedford canals, was that he actually proved that it was angular size change was the reason why the flags or markers he had appeared to drop below the crosshairs in the horizontal. He proved that it was angular size change.
You friggin' knuckleheaded, bonehead, knuckle dragger, mouth breathing, numpty dipshit. You listening to this? This collapses your whole fairy tale. Jesse, you numpty dipshit. So, you're looking down the Z-axis, right? Angular size change. That's why it's appearing below your crosshairs. Now, change that Z-axis to the X-axis, and let's see what's happening now. Friggin' bonehead. This is 2015 stuff, dude. 2015, man.
Yeah, it is. It is because, I mean, it was detailed some years ago exactly what I remember Jaron Campanella detailed it on a show exactly what he did, and even went and brought it on the baller shows exactly what Samuel Rowbotham did.
Yep.
Samuel Rowbotham knew that because what's really good about this is that what he did is that he did the same thing as I showed with those little demonstrations with the laser and that, where he knew that his crosshairs were making a parallel with the surface of the canal. So he was able to show that due to this parallel, that what happened was angular size change gave the appearance that things were dropping below the crosshairs and going over a curve, but they weren't. He proved it by setting up his crosshairs with the first two markers, and he proved that each one of the flags, he said, if all the rest of the flags don't line up with it, then you can call it a curve. But if they do, it's angular size change, and he proved it. And the stupid thing is that what they're not realizing is that actually totally proves that water is flat as well. But they're miles away from that. They haven't even learned what angular size changes yet. That's what I had to say. Actually, there's more. I meant to say, sorry. Yeah, actually, there's more. While everything was quiet, I said, I remembered. I've been trying to contact the LIGO station and anyone connected to it. I made a few phone calls over the weekend, but because of the COVID stuff, I can't get in contact with anyone. I've left some messages for people to contact me back. And I can't get any email address because they don't have a public email address for the email that I can find. There's 3 sites connected to it, 3 different websites, and I can't get an email address of any. I'll have to try maybe social media. But anyway, the reason I'm doing that is that the ballers are claiming that the LIGO station was built opposite from how they build everything else, because they had to because it's an interferometer and they're using lasers, they had to not build it following the curve of the Earth. So it was built in a direct horizontal straight line, and it doesn't follow the curve of the Earth. And I'm trying to find out, did they use water levels when they were building it? Because if I can find out they use water levels when they were building it, it totally validates Bev, because he's fighting the water levels fight for ages. But it also shows that water levels are showing an absolute horizontal, flat and level, because it has to be. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, that's all fine, and everyone's going to do what they got to do. But to say water isn't level and we have to go prove it is so ridiculous.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Exactly.
But people do it because it just makes them look stupid. So I don't mind people proving water is level, but everyone knows water is level unless disturbed.
And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!